That night, the lights in New York shone brighter than usual. The studio was packed with people, but no one laughed. No one spoke. They didn't know exactly what was about to happen, only felt clearly that something was coming, and it was powerful enough to change everything. Karoline Leavitt stepped onto the stage, not as the White House press secretary, not as a politician, but as someone carrying an information bomb, something powerful forces had tried to bury for years. In her hand was a small, ordinary USB drive, but she gripped it as if it were the last weapon on a battlefield. She didn't need a microphone. She didn't need a script. All she needed was the truth and one person to confront. That person was Oprah Winfrey, media icon, talk show queen, one of the most powerful women on the planet. But tonight, Oprah wasn't sitting as the interviewer. She was the one being questioned. It was the moment everything began. A night when the media couldn't control the narrative. A night when an icon was placed under lights she couldn't control. And perhaps the night the truth was finally heard. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the latest stories. The studio atmosphere was thick, taut as a bowstring. The stage light shone directly on Karoline Leavitt, standing at the podium, her gaze cold as steel, her shoulders steady without a hint of tremor. Her face was carved in resolve, her steely eyes piercing the audience. Not a single unnecessary movement, not a trace of hesitation. Across from her, Oprah Winfrey sat in a black velvet chair like a throne. She crossed her arms, lips slightly pursed, a forced smile barely visible. The eyes that had once opened the hearts of millions now held weariness. The host stepped lightly to the center of the stage. He glanced around the audience where hundreds of eyes were glued to the stage as if awaiting a historic trial. His voice rang out clear, each word carefully weighed. Ladies and gentlemen, rarely do we witness a moment like this. A space where two great forces of America stand together. Political power and media power. He paused, letting the words sink into the tense, silent air. Politics and media, two forces shaping public opinion, policy, and modern history. His gaze turned to Karoline Leavitt. His voice was slow, precise. Miss Leavitt, according to the information we've received, you hold a document that could change how the public views Oprah Winfrey, one of the greatest icons of contemporary media. Is that correct? Leavitt nodded, her hand tightly gripping the USB, then activated the large screen behind her. An email appeared titled Film Discussion, Oprah and Harvey, 2014. We start with Harvey Weinstein, Leavitt declared, her voice sharp, each word like an arrow. This email proves Oprah knew about Weinstein's misconduct but still collaborated to protect the Butler Project. The screen displayed a line from Oprah, Harvey, keep things stable. Don't let small troubles ruin the project. The audience murmured, some raising phones to record. These small troubles, Leavitt emphasized, were whispers of Weinstein's harassment, which Oprah ignored. Oprah stood abruptly, her voice sharp yet polished. That email was distorted. I only worked with Harvey for the film, nothing more. I knew nothing about those allegations until they went public. Some audience members clapped, but the applause faded, mingled with skeptical glances. Leavitt didn't flinch. She signaled, and the screen switched to a video. A young woman, about 30, appeared, her eyes red, but her voice firm. She introduced herself as Sarah Thompson, an actress who had worked on a Weinstein project. In the video, Sarah recounted a 2012 meeting in Los Angeles. I met Oprah at a film promotion event, she said, her voice choking. I told her Harvey tried to force me in a hotel room. I begged her to speak out, but Oprah just looked at me, put a hand on my shoulder, and said, there are bigger things to protect. After that, I was cut from the film. The audience fell silent, some covering their mouths, shocked by the account. Sarah concluded, Oprah knew, but she chose her reputation. Leavitt turned to Oprah, her voice lowering, filled with indignation. Sarah begged you for help, but you chose to stand with an abuser. Why didn't you protect her? The audience grew noisy, some shouting, Oprah, answer, while others still clapped in her support. Oprah shook her head, hands gripping the chair. I don't remember that conversation. If it happened, I wouldn't have told her to stay silent. This is a personal attack. Chaos erupted, but Leavitt remained calm, her gaze locked on Oprah. She continued, signaling for another document to be shown. A memo from the Weinstein Company, allegedly from a former assistant, stated that Oprah requested to quickly handle a complaint from an actress, implying Sarah. "This is no coincidence," Leavitt said, her voice sharp as a blade. Oprah didn't just know about Weinstein's behavior. She helped cover it up to protect her film project. The audience descended into chaos. Some shouted, "The truth, Oprah," while others shook their heads in disbelief. The host raised his hand, trying to restore order. "Karoline, these are serious allegations. Are you certain of this document's authenticity?" Leavitt nodded, her eyes not leaving Oprah. "Everything I present comes from reliable sources, ready for public verification. But Sarah and other victims can't wait any longer." She paused, looking at the audience. "And this is just the beginning. There are more secrets to be exposed." An Oprah fan retorted, "This is a smear campaign. Oprah is an icon of compassion." Conservative outlets praised Leavitt, while liberal media called her an opportunist. In the studio, the atmosphere was like a furnace, with the audience glued to the stage. Phones raised to record. The studio air was boiling, thick with tension and anticipation. Whispers spread through the room. Karoline Leavitt stood tall at the podium. The lights cast onto her face, her gaze cold and resolute, her right hand still tightly gripping the USB as if it were the final evidence between truth and lies. Across from her, Oprah Winfrey leaned slightly forward. Her hands clenched the chair's arms, knuckles pale, her face maintained a professional calm, but her eyes betrayed tension, hard to conceal after the recent blows. The host nodded slightly, his voice ringing out, deep and composed, like a helmsman balancing a stormy wave. "Ladies and gentlemen, you've just witnessed controversial content surrounding the connection between Miss Oprah Winfrey and Harvey Weinstein. A sensitive topic, but one that demands transparency." He turned to Karoline Leavitt, maintaining a focused yet courteous gaze. "Miss Leavitt, can you reveal anything more?" Leavitt gave a slight nod. No indignant expression, no savoring of victory, just cold focus. "Let's talk about Miss Oprah's Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa," she said, her voice even, not raised, but each word deliberate, like stones dropping into a still lake. She lightly touched the control panel. The massive LED screen behind her lit up. A photo appeared, a sprawling school campus under the golden African sun, white-painted gates, a row of trees leading to classrooms. Leavitt stepped aside, letting the image be seen clearly. "This school," she said slowly, "was promoted as a beacon of hope, a place to nurture future female leaders for the continent." She paused for a beat. The audience held its breath. "But for some of the girls who lived here," Leavitt continued, her gaze sweeping over the crowd, "it was the start of traumas they'd carry for life." The room fell deathly silent. No more phones raised, no more whispers, only the image of the school campus fading, preparing to shift to a new video, and everyone knew something heavier was coming. Leavitt pressed on, her voice rising, filled with controlled fury. In 2007, a dorm matron named Virginia Makopo was accused of sexually abusing multiple students. Oprah flew to South Africa, publicly apologized, and promised to make things right. But what did she actually do? She paused, letting the question hang, then signaled for a video. The screen switched to a young woman, her face half hidden in shadow, her voice trembling but resolute. She introduced herself as Amina Kosi, a former student of the academy. In the video, Amina spoke slowly, her eyes distant. "I was 14 when it happened," she began, her voice heavy with pain. "The matron, Virginia, targeted me and others. We reported it to the school staff, hoping Oprah would help. She came, gave an apology, but nothing changed. Virginia was acquitted, and we were told to forget it." Amina's voice broke as she added, "Oprah's apology was like a passing breeze. We needed protection, not words." The audience gasped, some shaking their heads, others whispering in shock. Leavitt turned to face Oprah, her gaze unflinching. "You knew about the abuse, Oprah. You had the power to act. But you hired lawyers to ensure Virginia went free. Why did you abandon those girls? The question cut through the studio like a blade, the audience erupting, some shouting, "Tell the truth," while others clapped for Oprah. Oprah stood, her face showing a mix of hurt and defiance. "I poured my heart into that school," she said, her voice firm but tinged with emotion. "I flew to South Africa, met with families, ensured the school was safe. These allegations are being twisted to smear me." Leavitt didn't waver. She signaled, and the screen displayed a document, a contract between Oprah's legal team and a South African law firm, dated 2007. "This document shows you paid to bury the case," Leavitt said, her voice low but icy. "You didn't just apologize. You orchestrated a cover-up to protect the school's reputation." The audience's reaction was like a breaking wave. Some booed, others sat stunned. A woman in the front row shouted, "Why did you do it, Oprah?" while another raised her hand in dismissal, still loyal to the media icon. Oprah's eyes narrowed, her voice rising with indignation. "That document is misrepresented. I did everything I could to protect those girls. This is a targeted attack." Booing rang out, but Leavitt stayed calm, her gaze locked on Oprah. "Amina and the other girls deserve protection, but you chose your image. That's the truth." The audience grew noisy again, some shouting, "Justice for Amina," while others shook their heads in disbelief. The host raised his hand, trying to restore order. "Karoline, these are grave accusations. Can you guarantee the authenticity of these documents?" Leavitt nodded, her eyes not leaving Oprah. "Everything I've presented comes from reliable sources, ready for verification. But victims like Amina can't wait any longer." She paused, looking directly at the audience. "And we're not done. There are more secrets to be exposed." The tension in the studio continued to rise. No one spoke. Every gaze was fixed on Karoline Leavitt, who stood firm at the podium, the lights illuminating her resolute face, her eyes not blinking once. Across from her, Oprah Winfrey sat motionless, her hands gripping the arms of the chair, her lips pressed into a cold, straight line. In the eyes that had once comforted millions, a flicker of unease now glinted like glass under pressure. The host adjusted his microphone, trying to keep his voice steady despite a hint of hurried breathing. "Leavitt," he said, his tone even but lower than usual. "The information you've shared clearly carries great weight. Can you share more?" Leavitt took a slow breath, her gaze sweeping the audience as if measuring every reaction. Then she stopped right on Oprah's face. "Let's talk about another name," she began, her voice low, each word piercing the already thick air like needles. "Jose, the man Miss Winfrey introduced to millions of viewers as a great healer." She pressed a button on the control panel. The LED screen behind her lit up, displaying a clip from the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2010. In it, Oprah appeared radiant on stage, her eyes bright, her voice full of conviction. "He has helped thousands find hope again. A healing energy I've never seen anywhere else." The studio audience stirred. Some furrowed their brows. Glances toward Oprah began to emerge. Not anger, but curiosity and doubt. Leavitt didn't need to say more. The clip had planted enough seeds of suspicion. "But Jose was no healer," Leavitt continued, her voice filled with controlled fury. "He was an abuser, accused of sexually assaulting hundreds of women, and Oprah elevated him." She signaled, and the screen switched to a new video. A woman about 40 appeared, her face weathered but her voice strong. She introduced herself as Maria Costa, someone who sought out Jose because of Oprah's endorsement. In the video, Maria recounted her experience, her voice trembling but resolute. "I watched Oprah on TV, heard her praise Jose. I trusted her, so I went to Brazil to heal from a past assault. But Jose took me to a private room and forced himself on me." Maria paused, her eyes red. "I felt betrayed. Oprah made me believe in a monster." The studio audience fell silent, some covering their mouths, horrified by the account. A man shouted, "Oprah, why did you do it?" Leavitt turned to face Oprah, her voice firm. "Maria and hundreds of other women went to Jose because of your endorsement. You made him famous, but when the allegations surfaced, you stayed silent. Why?" The audience erupted, some shouting for answers, while others still clapped in support of Oprah. Oprah stood, her voice trembling with emotion but maintaining composure. I introduced Jose because I believed in his work at the time. When the allegations emerged, I stepped back. I'm not responsible for his actions. Leavitt didn't back down. She signaled, and the screen displayed a document, a financial record from OWN showing funding from an organization linked to Jose in 2011, after Oprah promoted him. You didn't just promote Jose, Leavitt said, her voice like a razor's edge. You took money from those associated with him. You profited from an abuser's fame. The audience gasped, some shouting, shameful, while others shook their heads, unwilling to believe. A woman in the crowd yelled, Oprah, explain yourself. Oprah fired back, her voice rising with indignation. I didn't take money to promote anyone. These documents are fabricated, and I won't let myself be smeared like this. Applause from her supporters rang out, but it weakened, drowned by boos. Leavitt pressed on, her voice lowering, heavy with weight. You built your image as an inspiration. But there are other lies. She signaled, and the screen showed a quote from a biography where Oprah's aunt revealed that her childhood poverty story about keeping roaches as pets was exaggerated. You crafted a story to sell books while people like Maria paid the price for trusting you, Leavitt said. The host interjected, his voice tense. Karoline, you're making numerous accusations. Can you guarantee the authenticity of these documents? Leavitt nodded, her eyes not leaving Oprah. Everything I present comes from reliable sources, ready for verification. But victims like Maria can't wait longer for justice. She turned to the audience, her voice soft but firm. They deserve to be heard, and the truth must be exposed. The host leaned slightly forward, nodding gently, his voice rising as if to close a stormy segment. Thank you, Karoline, for the information you've shared. But before he could finish, Karoline stepped forward, raising her hand lightly toward him, not interrupting rudely, but as if continuing an argument she wouldn't allow to be cut off. Not yet, she said, her voice calm but resolute. There's one more crucial piece, a part of the picture the public deserves to see in full. The host stepped back slightly, nodding. He understood the stage was no longer his. Karoline returned to the control panel. Her fingers glided over the touch buttons, and once again, the screen behind her lit up. This time, no famous face appeared. Instead, it was a series of emails. The subject line, confidential production issues. Per month. Neat publicity studio expectations. She didn't need to explain at length. The emails spoke for themselves. Exchanges between studio representatives, PR teams, and Oprah's name repeated multiple times as the one coordinating public relations, shaping statements, and notably, a phrase highlighted in bold red, we should ensure Monique's narrative remains off-message. Oprah will handle it. Karoline looked up, her gaze now shifting from icy to solemn. This is no longer about a publicity disagreement. This is how Hollywood silences those who don't follow its unwritten rules. And Miss Oprah played a part in it. The air in the studio was thick. The host didn't intervene. The cameras began to slowly zoom in on Oprah's face. Once again, she wasn't the one asking questions, but the one facing a heavy silence where every explanation would be scrutinized under the spotlight of doubt. Monique starred in Precious, the film Oprah produced, Leavitt began, her voice low but weighty, as if building a case. But when Monique refused to promote the film overseas without compensation, her career plummeted. Why? Because Oprah insured it. She signaled, and a video appeared. Monique filled the screen, her voice strong, unyielding. I told Oprah I had a family, a talk show, and a comedy tour, Monique recounted, her eyes blazing. I wasn't obligated to fly to France for free. After that, Oprah spread that I was difficult to work with. Suddenly, Hollywood shut me out. The audience stirred, some gasping in shock, others whispering animatedly. Leavitt turned to Oprah, her voice icy and probing. Monique dared to stand up for her rights, and you punished her. You used your influence to blacklist her. How do you explain that? The audience erupted, some shouting, "Oprah, speak," while others clapped for the media icon. Oprah stood, her presence commanding, but her voice tinged with irritation. "I supported Precious to elevate meaningful stories," she said, each word deliberate. "Monique chose her own path, and I had no role in her career. These accusations are baseless." Her supporters clapped, but the applause faded, overtaken by growing skepticism. Leavitt didn't flinch. She signaled, and the screen displayed a series of emails allegedly between Oprah and a prominent Hollywood producer, dated 2010. The emails were brief but heavy, with a line from Oprah, "And Monique's personality is an issue. Move forward without her." Leavitt's voice rang out, full of force. "This isn't speculation. You called Monique trouble, and Hollywood listened. You didn't just produce films, you controlled careers." The audience's reaction was like a breaking wave. Some booed, others sat stunned. A man in the crowd shouted, "Why did you do it, Oprah?" while a woman nearby shook her head, still loyal.